Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Eclipse Madness Galactic Center webinar, where I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have going on for the time being. These times are incredibly interesting. Last time I was here, I was speaking a little bit about the Venus retrograde, and it proved to be, well, beyond interesting for a lot of people. This is really a very special phase of Venus retrograde. We now see how the planets, both Venus and Mars, are pushing into Aries, squaring Pluto just the last couple of days, and Mars will now also be conjunct Uranus for the next couple of days. And at the same time, we're going to have this wonderful eclipse in Pisces at 8 degrees Pisces. And to top it off, just to add a little bit more of sparkle to the cosmic drama, we're going to have Saturn hanging around on the galactic center. And all these things, they matter. You know, I think after, I pay close attention to the galactic center, mostly because I have my North Node there and my ascendant is just around the corner. So I'm highly sensitive to this point. And it's been a part of the draw all the time. This is my thing, the cosmos, the deep inner realm of energy, the inner layers of life. That's what I'm all about. I want to see life as it is and not as it appears to be. And that's the whole galactic center, in my opinion. And right now, when we have stuff going on around the galactic center, and I'm not talking Mercury, who's just crossing over a little quickly, although this Mercury retrograde, Mercury went all the way back in the area of the galactic center and turned around and re-entered Capricorn around these degrees. So that was special. But, I'm talking more long transits to the galactic center. These are very, very interesting. And we put it into context with the current eclipses, the one we had at 22 degrees Leo Aquarius, and now we're moving into Pisces eclipse. We're seeing pretty intense spiritual transpersonal energies entering into our consciousness. There's this huge quantum leap going on, and I'm not using these words because they sound fancy, but we're upgrading big time here. And if you're not feeling like you're upgrading and it's one crisis after the other, there is an absolute opportunity for you right now to actually reach a deeper level of understanding, both towards the world in general, which is a crazy place for the time being, and towards your own personal developments and processes. So this is my, both my personal experience, but also how I've observed everything around me these current times. And it's just simply a great chance for us to all reach deeper into the realm of the soul. We've had a number of meditations that's all been saluting the soul, like a sun salutation, as we call it in yoga. We're actually greeting the soul. We're saluting the soul. We're bending and bowing to the higher self. And this is, a very important concept for the time being, because we know we have to move up one level in order to find a proper and healthy solution for whatever issue we face in our own lives. It's like Einstein said, you can't solve the problem from the level where it was created. You have to go up one level to solve it. And this is, we're sort of sniffing out the age of Aquarius. And it sounds really fancy, right? But what it really means is that it's time to look at life from a more scientific point of view, right? We can't just look at our bodies and emotions and personalities as something we can't do anything about. It's an organism. We can work with it. We don't have to relive our traumas over and over and over and over again, thinking that is transformation. We have to find quicker solutions. There is no time to work lives after lives after lives with old traumas from the past. The age of Aquarius will show us precisely what and how we shall fix these issues of us dragging the past with us like rucksacks, and how we can transform and heal more efficiently. And in order for us to do that, we have to scientifically approach the spiritual realm. We can't just have the power of belief anymore. We have to understand it and actually have an experience of it too. Well, that's my current, it's my current kind of reflection, that I'm personally also going through. Yeah? All right, so I'm going to share a little bit with you. Let's see if my computer is cooperating with me. And it is. Hallelujah. Yeah, good. Thank you. Cool. All right, so I made a little... I'm going to try to keep my time. That happens that I don't, but I will, I made this little PowerPoint, not necessarily to talk so much about the eclipse, but rather to shed a little light on something that we hear not so much about. And I think it's weird because for me, it's really huge that Saturn is now landing on the galactic center. But it's understandable. There's not so much going on in the astrological community about the galactic center. I know Jeffrey Wolf Green touched upon the theme once, and he calls it like the realm where you can really meet the metaphysical, or you can see the symbolicism of life, the symbolic realm of life. And personally, one of my favorites in relation to cosmic astrology, and you probably know about him, is Philip Sedgwick. He's like this super Uranian guy who's like almost electric when you speak to him. He's really, and he's deep into this cosmos and all these kinds of different kinds of stuff that you normally don't hear about in the astrology community. So if you want to learn more about cosmic astrology, or, the level beyond human astrology, you might call it, you can check out his website. There are some very nice things there that can feed into your own loop and create perhaps an opening to a deeper intuition about these things for yourself as well. Yes, so this is it, this is the current eclipse energy that we have going on, and it's very, it's at 8 degrees Pisces over here, and conjunct, Neptune. Are we talking transpersonal or what? We are really talking a sensitivity that is connected to life. Pisces is all about life. Life is, you might call life undebatable. It's not something you debate. Life is life. How we interpret life is our challenge, you might say, because we tend to interpret life not according to what life is, but according to how we would want life to be, right? It's called projection. It's called expectation. It's called filtering life through your personal lens. And that's what's going on in Sagittarius. The entire mutable axis from Gemini to Virgo to Sagittarius to Pisces is all related to knowledge. It's all about knowledge, knowing, orienting yourself, knowing where you are, using the mind in any level. Hermes, Mercury, is a character that moves between the worlds. There are so many layers to Mercury. He can travel everywhere. One of the gods who can travel everywhere. He can go to Hades even, he can go deep into the underworld. So it's that capacity for us to travel. It's the traveler, right? So it's our ability to travel in many dimensions at the same time. I have several dimensions. Right now, I'm aware, semi-aware, that my daughter is in the kitchen, right? She's making some noises. If you hear them, it's her, right? I'm aware of your energies, right? I'm aware that you are listening to me now. And I'm at the same time, I'm communicating with, the library of knowledge that I'm channeling, you might call it, the energy that I'm communicating to you right now, right? About all this astrological knowledge. I might be aware on other levels too. You know, I can be in many places at the same time. In this sense, you know, your awareness can, you know, in the mutable energy, you have that kind of, this kind of fontaine, how do you call that? In, like, when you have like a fountain, that's what you call it. It's a fountain energy, and it's sort of spreading in any direction, and it's picking up everything in its surrounding. It's consciousness in its purest form. And the eye of consciousness is our logical ability to sort of make sense of what we're seeing, perceiving, understanding. So you come to the logical realm of Gemini. It's all about orienting. Where am I? This is green, that's yellow, and it's just washing everything. And in Virgo, you start to discriminate. Do I need this knowledge? What is it good for? Should I use it to something? And then you come to Sagittarius. You come to a deeper kind of pilgrimage in Sagittarius. You come to this kind of knowledge that is, so what's the meaning with this? You know, what personal meaning do I get from this kind of understanding or knowledge? What are my personal beliefs? And then you come to Pisces. And Pisces, there's no debate. There's only what is. In its ultimate sense, Pisces is enlightenment, right? There is no difference between the viewer and the viewed. There is nothing that separates the mind of such an enlightened being and life itself. This is a person who has access to everything. It's not even a person. It's just, you know, that art of being, right? It doesn't have that kind of ego attachment to it. So, I mean, we probably have to practice quite a few lives to get there. Most of us are still trying to figure out how to tie our shoelaces, but you know, this is the kind of theory behind the mutable energies. And right now we have this wonderful eclipse in Pisces. It's going to stimulate our ability to understand life as it is. Not as we would like it to be. It's very difficult. Me, I have a couple of planets in Taurus, for instance. I have like a fixed idea of what I want. You know, if you have a ton of planets in Scorpio, like, I have a desire, it has to be like this. If you have a multitude of planets in Sagittarius, you might have like, I would want life to be like this. You know, like I wish it was like this. Wishful thinking. Right? And then you can have like the distorted morals of Capricorn, thinking it's got it all figured out when it's really, you know, hasn't understood anything. And in Aquarius too, you get that mental I know it all attitude, you know, got it all figured out. And it might be wrong, you know. So there's always these distortions. We cannot really, we have to be really, really aware of ourselves living on Earth in relation to knowledge. In India, they have this concept which is related, I would say, mostly to the area of Virgo. The opposite point, where the nodal axis points to the North Node, is still in Virgo, and Virgo is Viveka, the art of discriminating. What is it that I'm looking at? What is this? You know, because from a Pisces point of view, you can have all kinds of glamours like romantic idealism, illusion. This is also part of the difficult challenges with being too open, you know, too sensitive and too mindless in a way. So in this eclipse, we get a lot of mutable energy fueled into our system. There's going to be huge inspirations. There's going to be like insights. You might have like these wonderful insights into your own life, into your own existence. And it can also be that you are confronted with something in yourself that is making you feel rather powerless, right? And also perhaps we now live in a time where everything is a little spooky. You know, people are quite afraid of what's going on in the world, and probably most of us could benefit more from actually having some sort of actual experience with our own spiritual selves, instead of just talking about it or thinking about it or having an idea about it, right? So this is it, you have to surrender into something. But Virgo reminds us you have to be awake when you surrender, right? You have to use viveka, the art of discrimination, the art of thinking, right? The art of correct thinking, I'd say, not that analytical, blah, 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 which we see so much of in astrology. Oh yeah, I know my chart, like blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and the energy, that's an analysis, right? What's the true essence of your chart? What's the true essence of anyone's chart? Your life. And that's like when you access a deeper kind of knowledge in your own life and in your own chart and in the charts you read for other people. What's the healing here? So if we talk about healing, I just want to share a little theory, because I spend a little time studying the Galactic Center, because I have that North Node there, and well, my Saturn opposes it, and I have like a whole bunch of things going on in this particular area of the zodiac. So I'm like, I got to figure this one out, I thought very early. And the Galactic Center, well, you can say a lot about it. And what I feel sometimes, that it is like this kind of warp hole. I don't know, I've seen a lot of sci-fi and I'm like, oh, beam me up, Scotty. That kind of metaphysical kind of quantum reality where time doesn't exist, or where things can happen simultaneously, and when you have telepathy, and when you have synchronicities, and when you have these incredible experiences where everything makes sense. The Galactic Center is in Sagittarius, in the late degrees of Sagittarius. The Sagittarian process is coming to an end. It's maturing, right? And at the late degrees of Sagittarius, this wishful thinking is maturing, right? It's entering slowly into the realm of Capricorn, and you have that kind of feeling with the late degrees of Sagittarius, that we're moving into some archetypal reality understanding of life. We're moving into seeing life as not just things that happen, but also like symbols, like deep symbols. It's actually the realm of archetypes and the realm of the pantheon, for instance. Like it's the realm of the gods, right? Odin and Thor for us from the northern countries, and Shiva and Brahman for the Indian areas, and then you have this Greek mythology, Greek Roman mythology that you have with Jupiter and all of the planets we use. It's these kinds of energies, and it's the same all over the planet, just different names. And that's when you start to see, that's almost like comparative mythology studies, like Joseph Campbell did a lot of. And he was, by the way, Aries with Jupiter conjunct the Sun. That's the Jupiterian mythological aspiration. You see things in a deeper realm. But why would we want to see life like this? What is it? Because we know, as Plato also knew, that ideas inform us, they program us. It's programming, right? We're programmed. We can like this or we can not appreciate it. Some people who are very puritanical would say, oh no, that's not it. We're not programmed. This is just me. That's how I am. But you're programmed. And you have all kinds of software running in your machine, and it's like, this is my mother's software, this is society's software, this is different kinds of operative energies that are, as you're switching between these personalities all the time. You can call it archetypes. Sometimes you're with your Saturn and sometimes you're with your Venus, right? So when we go to some kind of energy like a black hole, remember, the Galactic Center is our black hole. It has like according to Sedgwick, which is very well informed in terms of astronomy, he says that the galactic center radiates some sort of infrared radiation. It's so strong that, you know, they picked it up in the 30s by some kind of radio. There was a boat who had this kind of radio, and it just picked up this beat. It's like a beat. It sends out these energies in a kind of rhythm, and it's the rhythm that sort of pulsates life through us. You know, imagine the yin and the yang. You know, it's the black and the light. It's the light and the darkness. These, you know, a black hole in the middle of our cosmos. These intensity of energies that exists inside a black hole. It's so incredibly, you know, so incredibly. How do you say that in English? It's so incredibly intense, this kind of vibration, and therefore it's very, very strong. It's real. It's energy. It's not like, you know, it's measurable. And due to how do we communicate with life? We communicate through our etheric network, through our, well, chakra system, you might call it. We have direct access to energies. We feel them through our nervous system. This is when Mars is going crazy. It's really pumping through our roots, and it's beefing up the adrenals, so you can't sleep at night, right? Or you get super angry over nothing. It's the adrenals, like fight and flight instinct, really, really high. So it's that kind of energy that Mars is. And then you come to the galactic. What kind of energy is the galactic, you know? Well, it's a different kind. It's not a planet, right? It's a different kind of energy. It's a black hole, right? And for me, that's like, oh, that's our telephone line to the other galaxies. That's my first idea. Like, oh, yeah. That's when we enter into the cosmos. We become cosmic. We're no longer human beings. We're free form. We're everywhere. It's like, it's a portal for traveling. Yeah. So, what does this kind of contact do with us? Well, it's rebooting a lot of our previous thought ideas about life, of course. If you thought that, okay, I think that my thoughts are my thoughts, and then you have an experience with telepathy where you're like in the same room with somebody and you're like, oh, you were thinking about that too? That's so weird. You know, I have connection with this every day. You know, my daughter asked me the other day, what am I thinking? And I'm like, you're thinking of a Shopkin. I could see the Shopkin. She was sending out the picture. You know, and what color is it? You know, like, it's white and it has this round shape. I told her, and she was like, jaw. That's spooky, she said. And I said, well, you asked me, so I'm going to just tell you what it is. You know, that's the kind of access we have. Of course, it changes a lot of how you view life, you know, how you understand what thoughts are, for instance, and what you communicate with. Who is it that you're communicating with, right? So you're accessing a lot of energy that is moving in a deeper layer of life, like these deeper dimensions. And these deeper dimensions, they have loads of words on Earth today, like the Akashic records. It's like, you know, there's so many, you know, all channeling, all inspiration, all these things. And we're going to look at the charts of someone who has this galactic center, and you're not going to be surprised, I promise you. The first one is Albert Hofmann. I don't know if you know who Albert Hofmann was, but he coincidentally stumbled upon LSD when he was in his laboratory. Oh, and look at his Mercury. By the way, the galactic center is 27 degrees Sagittarius. It does have such a huge orb. I would put the orb to 7-8 degrees at least on each side, due to this incredible energy that it sort of occupies. So Albert Hofmann stumbles upon LSD, and you can say a lot of bad things about LSD probably, but you can also say a lot of good things. Today they actually have like valid research into the psychological effects of LSD treatments for trauma, for people with post-traumatic stress disorder, people who are stuck in deep OCD troubles, people who have all kinds of psychological complexes that they can't seem to solve on that level. Again, back to Einstein, up one level. They know from studies of the brain, when you do these psychotropic substances, or you do these kind of mind expansive substances, that the core of your brain is activated instead of the frontal parts of your brain. And the core of the brain is related to the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is related to what we call, some people call the pineal gland the brain of the soul, right? So it's like, it's more vertically oriented. If you have like these eyes that are looking horizontally at the world, the pineal is sort of the eye that looks up, it does, it's almost where the spine is. So it's in the middle of your organism, and it's looking up to something, like it's more vertically oriented. And when the pineal is activated, you have dream states. You go into dream states, and it's an ego-less state. There's no ego sense in this way. Meeting God was always an ego-less experience, right? So in order to expand your mind, you have to sort of release yourself, or your sense of self, in a way. And this is what LSD helps humanity to understand, that there are realms upon realms of life we haven't explored yet, because our mind is really stuck in the Gemini Virgo orientation thing, and then some religion, we add in a little bit of religion, but we're not seeing life as it is, right? That's different. And he has like a couple of planets in Pisces too. It's a very interesting chart, Albert Hofmann. But at least, there we go. That's the galactic. He was like, humdy-dumdy, like accidentally cooking up this thing, and it seemed to have had a great global effect on humanity. Just imagine the hippie ages, the hippie times, what influence they've had. You can laugh as much as you like from the hippies, but imagine the change, You can't just blame it all on Albert Hofmann, though, but he's a bit part of it, and that's no doubt about it. All right, so here's Tolkien. Oh my God, Tolkien, who got his revival. He was like, I read Tolkien when I was 16, because my father read it when he was a hippie. Or I would say my father wasn't like a hippie, but he was influenced by some of it. I mean, he's from Norway. We didn't have like real hippies in Norway. We had like almost people who wanted to be hippies, and then they had regular jobs like my father. And oh, cats again. Excuse me. Skal det ut, inn, frem, tilbake? Ja. So, sorry about that. And okay, so Mr. Tolkien, I don't know, it's very hard to not know who he is, but for you who is unacquainted with his work, he wrote this big trilogy called The Lord of the Rings, and then The Hobbit. And these he meant was an attempt to recreate, to create a modern mythology that human beings in that particular time could identify with. He wrote most of his book during World War II, and you can see the symbology of, there's loads of associations to this war that was going on in the way he writes. Also industrialism, there's this thing with the trees. Tolkien was very fond of nature, and he saw how industrialism was tearing apart his beautiful beloved countryside, for instance. And you have Saruman chopping down trees and violating nature, and just grabbing whatever they could. And this is very much the situation for Earth for the time being. So he was very ahead of his time. And I think that's why his ideas, his mythologies, which is so deep, this book is so deep if you look deeper into it, are so valid for the time being. Because we see this now today with the CEOs and the companies, and they're just violating everything. I have a friend who told me that, yeah, Pfizer is buying up mountains. And he said to me, I didn't know they could buy mountains. And I'm like, yes, that sounds really crazy. It doesn't make, how can you do that? How can you buy a mountain? In Norway, they just bought a waterfall. Whose waterfall is it? You can't just buy a waterfall. It doesn't make sense. It's not yours to buy. Who's going to own the moon? That kind of energy. And this is interesting stuff, because this is a communication from a deeper, insight. Tolkien had great intuition. He also had this book about the king who is finding his sword and forging his sword. It's the hero's journey that Campbell was so preoccupied with, the initiations of man, right? Which we are deeply lacking in our society today, right? So he's a real communicator of the world soul. That's how I call the galactic. You know exactly what the world soul is needing when you have that kind of energy going on. And here's another guy. He's born with the sun directly on the galactic center, and that's Mr. Steven Spielberg, which we all have a relationship to. He was the famous director of E.T. Phone Home, which is so much, yes, totally galactic, if you ask me, about this alien coming to Earth and wanting to come home again. I just want to go home again. You see some deeper, yes, that big, huge stellium going on in Scorpio too, which is this abandonment issue thing. And but it really moved us. I remember E.T. came out and I thought, wow, that was really moving, not because it was such a cute little thing, but it was that sense of awe when you realize that could really be true. And what happens today when Saturn is exactly on the galactic center? I guess you all read the news. There was a very funny, I think it was Victor, one of these British astrologers, who said on his feed today is like, oh, NASA is stating the obvious. There are planets orbiting a sun in our nearby, neighborhood. Like, because we already knew that, but we haven't had it proven before. And now they've found proof for it. They found planets. It's really huge, actually, because I think that's going to bring so much hope for humanity, that we're not entirely alone. I think humanity suffered from this loneliness complex, like, God, something just left us here from the third rock from the sun, and we're completely screwed, and everything is broken, and we can't fix it, and we don't belong anywhere, and there's no family here, and all these feelings we have on a deep existential level that's actually causing a lot of trouble energetically for us humans, more than we fathom, right? More than we can imagine. And it's making us really scared of death, scared of life, scared of love, scared of light, scared of everything. And I think, this is the kind of insight that people like Steven Spielberg just naturally play around with a little bit. Yeah, we're going to make like an E.T. Phone Home thing. And he knew probably on a deeper level in his being that this could actually provide some, it's part of the zeitgeist. I know this is it, now we have the technology, we can look to the other stars, we have this concept of aliens and the UFOs, etc. It's really popular. And he made loads of other films that also sort of visioned the future. you become pretty prophetic. You can have prophecies when you have this kind of galactic center sparked. So if you have some visions in your life for the time being, I mean, Saturn is there, and if it's touching your chart in one way or another, maybe that's you getting new energy, getting new insights into what your life could be, right? First, you clear the old software, right? Oh, I thought we were alone in the universe, right? And then you refuel with new visions. Now that I've cleaned my slate, there's like a white kind of, the paper is white, you can draw something new on it now. This is the kind of clearing and cleaning that goes on around the galactic. In my experience, that's what I've seen. You have that kind of crushing down the old order, When Pluto crossed this, I think it was in 1999, you had that thing going on with everybody going crazy about 2000 hype, and we all knew something new was coming. We just knew. Everybody knew. It was just like, yeah. And then some apocalyptic stuff turns out, and then you have all kinds of scary stuff going on as well, which is the other side of newness. It's the other side of the coin. When something's really new, we all become a little crazy, like what to do with it. So now we know there's planets orbiting other suns around there, even in our neighborhood. It's like we could be more even in the Milky Way. Wouldn't that be awesome? And scary at the same time. It's like that would totally unite humanity, that's for sure. It's like, okay, now we have a common enemy. It's them out there. Like, let's stay together. Now we have to stay together. So it's always the same. Yeah. All right, so here we have another one who has the sun around the 27th, 26 degrees, and that's Uri Geller. I don't know so much about Uri Geller to say whether or not he's the real deal or what, but yeah, I don't, we know what he's done. He's made himself world famous because he can bend spoons. Or he claims he can bend spoons. I don't know anything about that, but it's sort of like fitting into something that is real, though, like that kind of thought we have about what is form and what is structure. Is there some sort of energy in everything that we can't see? And that's a fascinating and very interesting thought. Maybe it's something we should explore more. It's so, I do it a lot, I see the form and I forget to look inside. What's inside the form, right? What is it that I'm looking at? And because I'm so busy thinking that I know what it is I'm looking at, I miss the opportunity to actually see what it is I'm looking at. And this is the kind of insight that I've been given during this Saturn on the North Node. It's really opening up something for me, and I'm seeing like, wow, that's interesting. I see that's interesting. Like, you can really get access to a new kind of consciousness. And I don't think Uri Geller, I don't know what he does, but like, I am always a little skeptic. I think everyone's probably just a fraud, because he wants attention and because he got really rich doing it. That's humanity. We're so businessy. We're always making business and ruining everything. It's like even the best things on earth people sell. Spirituality, for instance, how many religions have we ruined with the art of money and power? So many. All that was good, if you give it to the right kind of people, they will probably ruin it. And I'm not saying that because I'm very negative, but it's just humanity. We're still driven by these Martian instincts of survival. Me first, move over, I'm coming first, you know? And you see, Uri Geller does have like a Sun-Mars conjunction here. So it's pretty, you know, it's pretty driven. He's like, move over, I'm better than you bending spoons. Let's sell this thing. So it could be, you know, like he's aggressively promoting this, but it doesn't really matter for me because still he's got something that is interesting, and it has to do with this metaphysical realm of bending spoons. Is it possible? Can you dematerialize and pop up somewhere else? I'm not saying that you should spend your life trying to do that unless you're very, very interested. But if you understood that maybe it was possible, maybe your life would change, because we are over identifying with our limitations. You can't do that because of A, B, Z, you know, etc. excuses, most of them, of course, and unnecessary worries, the rest of them. Who told you you couldn't do that? I could be wrong, but I remember when The Secret came out. That was around that time, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember at least observing it. Oh, The Secret's out, and you know, you have all this galactic stuff going on. And The Secret is like the light version of some deep esotericism where you have like magic and creation, like some occultism. Yeah, but you know, it's really the light version of this occultism, right? But still, it is showing us that what you send out on some level comes back to you in one way or another. And it's a really deep realization that you sort of have to consider whether or not you are able to take responsibility for or not. Most people would just say, no, that can't be it. You know, you're not that creative. You don't have that kind of free will. And it's always a question of free will in astrology too, you know. So these planets, are they fixed, or do we have free will at all? Or are we just victims of our own astrology, you know? Well, I think when there's perfect consciousness, there will be perfect creation. That's my kind of vision. I don't have perfect creation in my life. There's a little bit of creation, and then a banana peel, and I slip and slide, and I crash, and I burn, and I do stuff that is, you know, like silly little mistakes. I'm not paying attention, and I, you know, like I'm not completely conscious, you know, like still, you know, still not there. But we're always learning, you know? So when we come to Pisces and when we come to Sagittarius and the galactic center, this learning process of what life really is, it's accelerated 1,000-fold. That's what people who took these LSD said. Oh my God, everything is just, wow, not what I thought. It's accelerated evolution, right? Sometimes too quick, sometimes unintegrated, right? So it's not that it's always good, but it's accelerated. Yes. So there. So I love to invite you in. I have like at least 5 minutes. If any questions, anything you want to ask about this, you know, this was just like a little insight into a very vast theme that I'm sure many of you probably worked with already. But if you have any questions, please just throw them out. Yeah.
So, Sol, it's Linda. Yes.
Hi,
Do you
Linda.
think Saturn conjunct the galactic center would have some sort of suppressing effect, like suppressing this area?
No, not at all. Not at all. That's a good question. Thank you, Linda. No, I don't. Suppressing is a very negatively loaded word. I'd rather say, you know, for me, Saturn is a correcting kind of energy. It really sort of stabilizes, and it could limit something. Yes. So you don't go completely off on this, I can fly on this flying carpet kind of thing, and you know you can't fly, you know, like it's where you're not paying attention to reality. Yes, so it's making it real. You know, Saturn is giving form to things, and for me, it's sort of realistically observing the metaphysical or quantum reality that this galactic point is presenting to us. So I rather say it gives us a proper opportunity to actually utilize this consciousness, this awareness in a very hands-on, realistic way. You know, it's actually asking us to actually use this kind of insight, not just think about it, walk the talk. That's the favorite mantra of Saturn. Walk the talk, don't talk the walk.
Yes,
right?
thank you. Yes.
Mm.
Would you be able to give us an example of a manifestation, either for you personally or in the world, of Saturn conjunct the galactic center?
Well, yes, okay. All right. So there could be like a deep confrontation with old thought forms. I mean, Saturn in Sagittarius is really now showing us that, okay, we have a lot of prejudices going on. We have a lot of preconceived ideas of what we think life should be, right? It's actually ruining a lot of people's lives. And I think all of so oh yeah, there she muted herself. And you know, how is it ruining people's life? It could be a negative belief, right? Like a negative belief system that is actually challenging your life. You're not able to realize your potential, for instance. You are blocking your own expression. You are limiting your own success. This is something that I've actually, I think, I've worked a lot with Saturn in Sagittarius in general. And my idea when I did it last year, and I had this theory about how that would unfold, and I said, I think a lot of us will go through a time where we're really going to question our personal religions. And with personal religion, it could be the idea that all men are bad, like all males are bad, for instance. A lot of women carry this deeply in their own subconscious, and because they had an abusive relationship or a series of abusive relationships, and or saying vice versa for men, like, and then this idea that they have is not making them attract the right kind of partner. They're like, it's just the same kind of energy all the time, until they realize that, maybe I should take responsibility for this religion and do something about it. You know, examine it deeper, see if there's any possibility for me to move beyond that idea, expand beyond it. And then you can have like a super quantum manifestation going on. Suddenly, woohoo, something wonderful appears that is next level, right? We all want to go to the next level. We don't want to go in circles. We want to be a spiral, right? So that's what Saturn is helping us with, because Saturn is making us confront, these are your negative thoughts and ideas. These are your beliefs. It's your religion. You have to find a better religion, right? So it's really nice energy. I've been working with it for all the time, you know, with clients and etc. During this phase from when Saturn ingressed into Sagittarius. It's been a lot about these belief systems that I'm looking today as well on Earth today, all this racial prejudice stuff going on. It's really making us conscious of our own inhibitions regarding life. You know, how we view life, how we put people, compare them to each other and say one is better than the other, etc. So these negative thought forms, I mean, it's up to us individually to actually do something about it. Of course, we're going to see the dark side of Saturn in the world community today, as we have with this current political situation, which is really rather brown, you know, that undertone of fascism that is going on. And it's that fear again, you know. But for us personally, it's a good opportunity to move out of some of these limiting beliefs, right? So it could be related to your own success or money or whatever, you know. Just confront these ideas. Great way of using the eclipse.
Hi, this is Sarah. My son is on the Galactic Center, and everything that you just said about the Saturn on the galactic center. I am experiencing it on my son right now. And what's interesting is this is a kind of an important year for me as I've recommitted to another relationship, a love relationship. And I think it's important because I had to go through the process, just like you said, of having to reevaluate what I'd learned from growing up from my own father figure and how that didn't work well in relationships. And I had to basically let go and release all that I knew growing up and relearn something brand new to raise to one level. And then I had to go through it again when I went through my first marriage and relearn again the change of my belief systems about my Uranus opposition. So indeed, I totally understand that. And it's the crystallization of having to go through that, letting go of what you thought and having it crystallize as you learn and bring in new consciousness.
Wonderful. Thank you for that vivid example. And I see time is moving out now. So I'm glad you finished that story before we were broken off. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. I really appreciate it. These things are so, it's just, we're in the middle of it now. This eclipse is so powerful. So it's just an invitation for us all, I think, to put something on some sort of altar and say goodbye to something old and accept something new again. These rebooters that the eclipses can really help us move forward. So that's what I wish for all of us and for this eclipse. And thank you for listening through this little lecture. It was great fun to share with you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Sol. That was very interesting. Thank you so much. And I'll just unmute everybody. We can all say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, so.
Thank you, so.
Great.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And we'll see you again. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.